Hi, I want to talk about another section in the Develop module in Lightroom. And so we've talked about Basic here, and the tone curve, and below below tone curve it says HSL and color. And HSL stands for hue, saturation, and luminance. And you can go in and adjust specific colors in your image in terms of the hue, that is the amount of blue or red in the image or in the color, in terms of saturation, how intense the color is, and in terms of luminance, how bright or dark it is. And you can control all of the colors or specific colors, and you can do that according to or divided up into the categories of hue, saturation, and luminance. Or if you click on the word color after HSL, then the colors are divided separately, and under each color heading you can control the hue, saturation, and luminance. So let's look at this image here, and it's, as you can see, a garden or a walkway filled with different colored flowers and a blue fence and so on. So let's look at the reds first, and I'm going to move the hue slider. And if you look at the areas in red, as I go to the left, there's more, it becomes somewhat more purplish, the reds. And as I move the slider to the right into the orange area, you can see that there's a lot more orange and yellow in the reds. In fact, they're not red anymore if I go to 100%. The saturation will increase or decrease how intense the color is. So let's say I make it a little bit more into the purple range and then decide I want it even more intense, and you can see that the reds get really, really punchy relative to everything else. If I decrease the saturation, they lose color. And if I go all the way down, it's almost as if they've lost all color. I probably don't want to do that, but you never know. You never know when you might want to. So I can decide that my red should be much more orangey and not nearly as bright, or really bright in terms of the intensity of the color. I can then decide if I want or control the brightness of that color. So maybe I want the reds really dark, like so, and I'll bring the luminance slider way, way down. Or perhaps I want them really intensely bright, and then I can bring it way up. So each of these affects one color. So next is orange. And if you look at the areas that are orange, there aren't as many, but certain colors contain orange. So red, for example, the reds have oranges. The yellows have some oranges. And as I move to the left, the orange gets somewhat more pinkish. And when I move to the right, the orange gets more yellow. With yellows, if I move to the left, you can see the yellows have added a lot more orange. And when I move to the right, they go green. With the greens, a lot of green here. When I move to the left, the greens have yellow added to them. And when I move to the right, they have blue. And so it looks almost as if we've gone into shade, from brighter sunlight into shade by adding more blue. I don't think there's much aqua in this image. Aqua is a kind of combination or in between green and blue. So just a very subtle change. Not many aquas here. There are a lot of blues, however. So if I move the slider to the left, the blues get much more turquoise. And when I move to the right, they turn bright purple. Okay. With purple, the purples can become much more blue when I slide to the left. And they add red, magenta when I move to the left, to the right, I beg your pardon. And finally, magenta, there aren't really magentas in here very much, but if you look at, if we come in closer and look at these colors in here, we can see that there's a shift. So when I adjust the magenta, and again, I can zero these out by double clicking on the sliders. And maybe I don't want to come in quite that close. Back up a little bit. And so again, if I want my reds to become a little more purplish, I can do that, make them more intense, lighten them as well, or darken them. So this is a nice way of being able to control specific colors without having to affect the entire image. So you can certainly use the white balance sliders to control the overall image. And to a certain extent, you can use the adjustment brush to go in and select areas, but you don't have access to these sliders in these tools, unfortunately. But that said, you can really fine-tune your image in terms of colors, and of course color saturation and luminance, by using these tools and these sliders here. Okay, thanks.